anyone who's not seen this channel, this video is intended for someone who hasn't got a clue about concrete floor grinding and who's also stupid enough to have left the floor shockingly unlevel when they poured it. Now, I've been on a bit of a journey lately with concrete floor grinding. I started out with an angle grinder. I then went over to a large 3 horsepower, like big ass angle grinder basically, you walk along behind. And now, I've just picked up this. Sitting in the distance there is a Lister Petter powered floor grinder. Now, whilst I might skip on to the next bit and see the mess this thing can make, I would like to impart upon those of you who have stayed my small amount of knowledge gained during my journey. Firstly, angle grinders equipped with a segmented diamond disc, wonderful, work really well. Problems are, those discs wear out reasonably fast, you can only work a very small area and it's backbreaking. Plus, if like me you go and use a normal angle grinder, it's dusty. My next step along the way was to use a large 3 horsepower, what would you call it, a walk behind machine, much like this one, but with a single disc. For me, with a dodgy knee, I found it was torquing, like fighting that torque, that motor was putting a lot of strain on my knee. So this time, I've gone for a double disced machine. This particular machine accepts these 50 by 50 by 100mm silicon carbide blocks. These are 12 grit. It's stamped in on the block. I don't doubt if you can see that, and you jam them in underneath with these little wooden wedges. So let's see if I can put some weight on this knee to kneel down. Ooh. Yeah, it's not too bad. Right. All we've got to do, pop your stone in there, donk it down with hammer, and then just give it a good tap in place. Once again, stone, wedge, donk. Fit than the other one. Oh, my knee. Let's carry on. You can clearly see on the floor as I'm walking the lighter coloration to the ground. The only problem I found, which we'll see in a minute, this did start kicking up dust, but I think that was because I had the fan sucking the air out. Later on I did it so the fan was blowing air in, and that seemed to keep the dust down. I guess it might be because it added a little bit of pressure into the shed rather than trying to vacuum it out. Lines here and look over there and that are only a couple of millimetres deep now, but what I have got is in places like little pits, but I imagine the paint I'm going to use will fill those in I gave wet grinding a try. I found, while it obviously stopped the dust, the blocks didn't cut as well, and the cleanup was a right pain in the backside. It was a far more messier process. I think dry grinding was better, and it also made made it easier to clean up, and at the same time I think the blocks were far more effective and working better. Yeah, that, and also my shoes kept getting wet, and so in the end I had to give up with wearing shoes because it was just minging. Up here, where the floor's a bit darker, that is a slight low spot. I've not worked it as hard as the rest because it's a low spot. I've just smoothed it off and I haven't dug into it. So I'll sweep this end out. And it's the same up this end. I've got another low spot there. I'm not sure if you can really see this or not. I mean, there was a granite block there. That are buried, and it's flushed that off like it's nothing. I also did have some video footage of this area, which was really rough and rippled. So I know it would have been better to finish this out correctly at the time when I finished it, but it was a lot of work involved. There's over 30 cubic meters of concrete underneath my shed, which was all delivered in bulk bags and 25 kilo cement bags, which we had to handball everything around the back of my house and knock all this up in a cement mixer by hand. So yeah, you live and learn, I guess. And now it's nice and smooth. The first two sets of blocks I used wore out really fast during the initial grind. Probably because it was such a rough finished surface in that. The problem is I had 5 sets of blocks in total. So I done my initial grind that used 2 sets of blocks. I used the whole set of blocks going around a perimeter. Actually, tell a lie, I've used 2 sets of blocks going around a perimeter roughly, I think. And then I've used another set doing another pass over the floor. Now I'm waiting for some more blocks, and I've got a while. But what I did earlier was I took some of the leftovers of these blocks and was just sort of putting them together, you know, trying to arrange them in a way that would make them fit in for another round on the grinder. It does work. I did a load earlier. The problem is I had 5 sets of blocks. A few of these blocks, like, they do tend to break now and then, especially when you're not being that careful when you take them out. So I've got to try and work out a way of doing this, mainly because I've got bored and I don't want to just sit around with my thumb up my arse waiting to do this floor, so I might as well do a little bit whilst I can do it. So as you can see, I wasn't joking. I'm literally just jamming anything I can in, and this actually works, which is quite surprising and very, very handy. I'm not sure how well this will pick up on film. This is an area I ground with the fragments, and that's where I'm going. Now you can see all those dark patches are small divots and stuff. Well, I've not gone so heavy because they were low spots. Now I'm going to try and take the concrete down even further to get it all level, and eventually I'll get onto a final sort of grind. And I'm only grinding this, I'm not polishing this concrete, I'm just grinding it all level. But you can see there are some still lines from tamping it down and that, and I don't know what the hell was going on here, but hey. And especially here, there are a lot of little pothole divoty things, and also here. You can see there's quite a few around here. I'll deal with that later. For now I just want to get the floor fairly level. Delivery day. I've got a set of 12, 24, 36, 60 blocks and some 120s. I'm going to do the final grind on this floor now with regards to before I seal it. Now that's going to involve me taking down all the spots where I did a little bit of quick filling just to get rid of any blemishes. This is more of an experiment. I want to see whether or not a mix made of sharp sand, cement and neat SBR Bondy stuff, which James told me to use, can be ground over, because if it can, then I may well plug a few little imperfections so I don't have to use so much, well, so I don't have to fill them with paint, because I imagine like if you've got like a ½ inch deep pit, I don't know whether epoxy will cure. Then I've got my densifier and hardener. One's densifier, one's hardener, and then I've got a load of sodium silicate, 40% water glass. There's 25 litres of that as well, and that is for me to do a seal, a final seal up of the floor before I epoxy it. Belt and suspenders basically. I'm going to do this once, may as well make sure it's done properly and lasts. The mix I used here was sort of a 3:1 cement, 3 sharp sand to 1 cement, and then I just added SBR bonding compound in neat, and then patched up the areas where there were like quite a lot of dips and holes and that. I then gave the mix a week to cure, and I wet cured it to try and make sure it's going to be strong. Like, you spray it a few times a day every day for those 7 days, and it helps to keep the moisture in and make the concrete cure harder. I'm reasonably impressed with how well the mixture held into the concrete, really, considering it's feather edged in and that, and the grinder didn't strip it straight out, and I did quite a few areas with this. I had 3 large low spots where the footings and the cement just didn't match up properly, so I filled them in and they came out perfect. And you can see just in the bottom of the screen here, there was a couple of areas where I just mucked around to see how thin of an area I could fill with the mix, and surprisingly enough you can feather this edge out to almost nothing and the grinder doesn't lift it, it bonds in really well. So a useful tip, I guess. Yesterday I polished the floor to 60 grit stones, so I've gone 12 grit over the entire floor, and I worked down any high spots and like got it level. I then started working my way up my grits, so I did the entire floor once I got it level, 12 grit, and I used 12 grit to take it down. I then did 24 grit. I still focused on each area that I knew was originally a high spot and sort of passed it 2 or 3 times more than the rest of the floor. I then did a 36 grit pass, which was relatively even, but I still worked in a very wide area over my high spots. At which point I have got rid of all the high spots. I've still got a few little divots in the floor from pouring and tamping the concrete. I then did a 60 grit pass over the entire floor twice. That was like going left to right and then back and forth twice. I then put down concrete hardener after I cleared the floor up and left it for 24 hours. I've just started now another 60 grit pass with a sprayer positioned underneath my grinder, putting down a very, very light spray of hardener to create a slurry. This is called a grouting pass, I believe it was, I read online. And this gives you the opportunity for some of the hard concrete dust that you're grinding up to mix with your hardening and densifying mix, and it will fill in some of the small imperfections. It's not really overly necessary, but I'm going to do it, and then after that I will buff it all over again using 120 grit. So this is with the slurry mix doing a grouting pass. All I've got is the wand poked in to the back of the grinder. I'll tell you that now, because when I start the big fan up and start the engine, you're never going to hear anything I say. This is after the first 120 pass, after I've put the hardener down. You can see still got a couple of low spots here and there, but they're only like little divots sort of thing. But the floor in general looks pretty nice. This has been swept twice and hoovered about 5 times, and I'm still loosening up small amounts of dust. So I'm going to go see if I can get some form of electric, I suppose like a floor buffer thing, like a little one that has brushes or something, because this is getting on my nerves, and it's taking me forever. So yeah, I'm going to go see if I can find something to help me along with that, because it's really annoying. Just going to put down another coat of densifier or hardener, let that dry, and then I'm probably going to use some sodium silicate or water glass and seal the floor off, ready for painting. So have fun. Thanks ever so much for watching, everyone. I've not been able to put much out whilst I've been doing this because everything's packed away in that. I also suffered a few injuries whilst doing this. I ran myself over a pump truck and did all the tendons in my foot. I did my shoulder in and my knee was playing me up. So yeah, thanks for watching and I'll catch you later.